So before we get started with actually locating items inside of Autodesk Inventor and continuing through the actual software application, we first need to talk about Autodesk Inventor and what it is capable of. So I'm going to walk you through this website. This is the Autodesk Knowledge Network. So inside of the Autodesk Knowledge Network are a lot of different items that you can use to get answers to questions that you have, such as the file types and templates that are available in Inventor. So this little article right here does walk us through how to create what different file types there are. We're going to start by discussing a part file. So a part file has the file extension .ipt. When you save a file on a computer, it always has a file extension. That file extension tells the computer what type of file it is and what it needs to do with it. A Word document, for example, is .doc. That doc tells the computer that it's a Word document versus a .ppt, which would tell the computer that it's a PowerPoint. So in this instance, a part file has the file extension .ipt, and when you open a part file, you are in the part environment. And the part file allows us to actually manipulate sketches and features that we use to create our parts. So a part file tends to be the first file type that we're going to use. And then we take these part files and we put them into other areas. So most of them start with a sketch, and a sketch is just an outline of a specific set of geometry. So it's just the perimeter or outline or individual features. And then we use things like extrusions or cutting or things like that to constrain and control those geometric relationships and then create the shapes that we want. Down here we have two examples of a part file. As you can see, there's some other icons over here that we'll be discussing shortly. Now the next file type that we're going to discuss is an assembly file. An assembly file has the file extension .iam. Now, in an assembly file, it allows us to take multiple parts that we have created and actually put them together in a way that we can see how they would not only fit together, but also function together. We can actually animate the motion of parts. So as we scroll down, you can see right here, there's that gold base that we saw up above. It has been paired with these other portions, and then you would be able to actually take that and rotate a handle to make all of that turn and illustrate that within an IAM file and actually see how well the parts fit together. Another file type that we have within Inventor is called a presentation file, and that is a file extension .ipn. And presentations are really useful because you can create an exploded view of an assembly. So this is that same item that we had up above. This is an exploded view. So you can see all the parts that were combined here have been spread out across these blue lines, so we can see exactly what goes into creating that object. And then we can also create an animation within the presentation file that would show how it is assembled. So that animation would then put all these pieces back together, and we could use it to present an assembly process to a client or customer. The last file type that I'm going to talk about is a drawing file. Now there's two file extensions for drawing. It's either a .idw or a .dwg. You're going to see a .dwg more common in this class, or more commonly in this class. So after you create a model, instead of hand drawing a multi-view, we can actually take our part files, our assembly, and actually put them into a multi-view that is computer generated. It'll create our parts list for us. We can also identify our dimensions very easily within a IDW or DWG file. These can then be sent to a printer. They can be saved as a PDF and emailed out, or whatever we need from them. So that is an overview of the different file types. This link is posted inside of Classroom if you need to see the article, or feel free to review and watch this video again. Okay, so now that we have looked at the different file types that Inventor is able to create, let's start by opening Inventor and taking a look at what's inside. To open Autodesk Inventor, we're going to come down here to our magnifying glass, and we're going to type in INVENTOR, and you are looking for the orange letter I with the word Pro next to it, and it says Autodesk Inventor Professional 2018. Now this is a large software application and it takes a few moments to open. You can track its progress by this white bar at the bottom. Mine opens pretty quickly because I've opened it a few times. For you, the first time you open it is probably the longest. It will gradually get faster as you continue to open it. Now, once you're inside of Inventor, you are probably going to get a window that says Learning or Start Working. We're actually going to choose the Start Working option because we're going to begin by going through and actually looking at some portions within here. Now that we're inside of Inventor, I'm actually going to choose just one of the pre-made files I have down here, and I'm going to open that. Now, if you were going to start a new file, you could choose from right here, whether it's a part, an assembly, a drawing, or a presentation, or you could choose from the new menu here, drop down, choose new, and it brings up this menu for different types. We have both standard parts in our customary system in English, as well as in metric. So we have a millimeter file or an inch file. I'm going to go ahead and open a new inch file. And again, you can watch it load by watching it load down here in this corner. You might get a loading message on the screen. Again, Inventor is a massive software application. It does take a few moments in order to get everything set up. Once you're here and you have this gray background as well as all of the icons around the edges, you're actually inside of the part area. So a couple of things I would like to point out is inside of this user interface, we have this top bar up here. This top bar, these different ones right here, are called ribbons. So in a lot of applications, they call these toolbars. Inside of Inventor, we actually call these ribbons. So anytime I reference the 3D model ribbon or the sketch ribbon, that's what I'm referring to, are these tabs up here across the top. Now, these are, again, called tabs. So right here's your File tab, and then these tabs lead to the different ribbons that are available to you. Okay, we also have a ribbon up here with some different features, and then we have a Search and Help command ribbon over here. Now within these ribbons, we have these icons that are called commands. So each of these commands does a different function to our model. Now for some of these ribbons, they have drop-down panels right here. Now this is your panel, and there are some extra commands tucked inside of here. So for example, under this Modify tab, we have 3 different commands that we don't fit up here, so they're available under that. Now let's say, for instance, you have our browser over here, and you're working and all of a sudden, the browser disappears. The easiest way to return your browser or any window that you lose is to go up here to the View ribbon. Once you're in the View ribbon, you can select User Interface, and then you can select Model, and it'll bring that panel back. There are some other areas that you can put in here. We also have a mini toolbar that you can pop up, and some other items. You can also remove some things if you find them to be distracting. Now, the View cube and the navigation bar are really useful. Obviously the model bar is, but maybe you just don't feel like you need the marking menu. You can take that off and have all of those things kind of tucked away if you see fit. So as I previously mentioned, this area over here is called the browser. The browser allows us to see the different layers of our objects. So let's say if you've worked in Photoshop before, that we are working on a part. So all I did was I just created a new sketch file, which we'll talk about later. You don't have to pay attention to that right now. But once I actually create that, you'll see that it adds to my browser window right here. So I'm just going to put this in here, and then I'm going to finish that sketch. You can see I have the sketch over in the browser. Now I'm going to add a feature to that sketch, okay? And we're just going to extrude that. And now you can see that that sketch turned into extrusion 1. Over here, these little carrots are called the parents and the children. I know it's a weird term, but it's what they use. You'll hear it referenced in a lot of Inventor videos. So if I click on this parent right here, I can now see that Sketch 1 has become a child of the Extrusion 1 parent. That means Sketch 1 was consumed by Extrusion 1. Now, let's say that I have a hole in the front of here, or some kind of other feature. What I can do is I can actually add a circle or something like that to this. Now let's say I want the circle to go to multiple places. I want a circle here and on a different surface. I can actually share that sketch by right-clicking, and then actually I need to do it from here. If I go to this sketch, I can then, once it's consumed, I can then share it. So if I choose Share Sketch, it gives me a duplication of the original Sketch 1. So right-click, Share Sketch. I can then tell it's shared by this little hand right below the pencil. You can see the original sketch just has a curve. This hand that you can see right there indicates that we are sharing the sketch. Now, you'll also notice that these are in chronological order. So I created Sketch 2 after I created Sketch 1, so it goes beneath the original extrusion. When I shared Sketch 1, it moved above it because it became its own original sketch again. So this goes in chronological order of creation, top to bottom. Now, let's say I want to take a look around my object that I've created here. There's a couple of things that I can do. First, I can rotate using my view cube. This view cube allows me to see the different views. So if I want the front view of this object, I can now just see the front view. I can rotate to the top. I can rotate to the right side. I can also get myself on an angle. Now let's say, I'm stuck. I want to get back to my original view. I can click on the home view and it automatically reorients my object back into the position that I want it to be in. Now this bar right here is called the navigation bar. This little icon is your navigation wheel. The navigation wheel allows you to rotate and orbit around. We have our pan tool. If I select my pan tool, it acts as a hand that lets me move this left or right. I can drop any tool that I want by hitting the escape key. Right here is our zoom all. We can drop down from this arrow and get different zoom options. We then have our orbit tool right here. Again, we can do a constrained orbit or a standard orbit. And then last but not least, we have our look at. So that allows us to actually choose a specific spot, and that is what we look at on our object. That's really useful for more complicated shapes. Okay, so that is our navigation bar, our view cube, and our home view button. Now, all of that's really useful, but sometimes it's using the mouse is a little bit tricky. We can actually use the F keys on top of the keyboard, to be able to access some of these tools. So if I push F2 on the top of the keyboard and hold it, it gives me my pan tool. So instead of clicking over on my navigation bar, I can push F2 on the keyboard, and as soon as I release F2, it drops that key. F3 acts as zoom. So as I hold this, I can then click and push in and out with my mouse to be able to zoom in and out on the object. If I push F4, I get the free orbit tool that allows me to spin. Now some of you are going to get really excited about this and spin this a lot. That's a good way to crash Inventor, so be careful, use the orbit tool responsibly. F5 is the return to home view, so instead of coming up and clicking on the house, I can just push F5. And then F6 zooms it back out so it fits it to the screen. So those are our function keys and how we can use them for shortcuts. Now, inside of Inventor, when we open a new file, I'm actually just going to close this. No, we're not going to save. Once we're here, you're going to notice over here I have some information titled projects. When we go to create Autodesk Inventor files, it's really important that we group our parts together in different projects. So you can see I have one labeled IED right here. And then I have frame generator, and these are from my aerospace class. So if I were to select this by clicking that check mark next to there, you can see I have no files in there currently, but what this does is it links all of my files together. So if I am creating multiple files for my IED class and I click the IED tab, they would all appear right here in this box. That allows me to keep my files organized and together in a way that allows them to be connected inside of an assembly file. If I try to take a file from my default tab and a separate file from my IED tab and put them into an assembly together, it's not going to work. So in order to organize our files in a way that allows us to keep our items together and actually insert them into assemblies, we have to create project tabs. Now right here you can see I've already created one for IED and I have nothing in it. If I choose my default tab, I get all of these files that you saw earlier when I opened Inventor. If I were to try and take one of these default files and put it with a file from my IED tab into an assembly, it actually would not work. Now, I want to clarify, this is not where all of your files are. This is a preview pane that allows you to see recent documents. There is not a guarantee that the project you're working on is going to be there every single time you log in. So remember that you've saved those files in the different folders you created earlier and that you're going to open them using the Open tab. Now for you to create a project shortcut that is labeled IED, you're going to go to Projects and you would choose New Single User Project, choose Next. You're going to change it to IED. I already have one named that, so I'm going to name it IED1. Yours should just be IED. You're going to hit Next and then Finish. So now you have this tab labeled IED1. Now our IED. Now obviously I just created an IED1. I don't want to use that. I want to use IED. So if I want to make IED my active project file, all I do is double click back on IED and choose Done. I can always change that option from right here in the shortcut area to the Projects tab. So that is how we create a project and make sure that we have the active project with the check mark.